Forming up the vanguard of the Adeptus Mechanicus forces are the Skitarii Vanguard. We're talking about this unit today on Let's Talk Tactics.
Anvil of War! Let's talk tactics!
Hey guys, welcome back to Anvil of War Gaming. Today on Let's Talk Tactics, we're discussing the Skitarii Vanguard for use in your games of Warhammer 40,000 9th edition. We previously released the video on these guys for mid 8th edition going into 9th edition, and fact is, sweeping changes with the release of the 9th edition Codex for Adeptus Mechanicus. So here we are again talking about these guys. They are a favorite. I mean, them and Rangers are sweeping tournament tables right now, just spamming these guys in droves, and they're just so good. I mean, I can't say enough about them. So today we're going to talk about where they stand currently. I can in the future see some changes as far as maybe some points increases with come around December when we get the sweeping points changes for the edition, as well as we might see some tweaks to some of the stratagems, maybe increase in command point cost, stuff like that. But as of right now, they're sitting pretty strong, and let's get into their statistics and start from there. So they have a movement of 6 inches, a weapon skill of 4+, a ballistic skill of 3+, a strength of 3, a toughness of 3, 1 wound, 1 attack, a leadership of 6, and a 4+ save. The alpha increases to 2 attacks and a leadership of 7. Squad size is anywhere from 5 to 20 models. This is an increase from the 10 models you could previously take in the past edition. So now we see blocks of these guys on the tabletop. Now that does make them more susceptible to blast. It also makes them more susceptible based on the fact that they do have that leadership, the lower leadership you have to be concerned with. So make sure you keep your alpha alive. Make sure he doesn't get plucked out of the unit for some unforeseen reason. And they come stock with a radium carbine. Now this is an 18-inch weapon, assault 3, strength 3, AP 0, and damage 1. Now it has a special rule that any non-vehicle enemies targeted with this weapon are auto-wounded on a hit roll of 6. Now that's, and it's an unmodified hit roll of 6. So that's a pretty strong little rule. I mean, it's really good for targeting things like monsters in the enemy unit. I mean, Tyranids would hate this. But remember, AP 0, it's not that terrifying yet. But we'll talk about how it becomes more scary as we go. Now, as far as unit composition and special weapons, special equipment that you can take in the unit, if the squad is 9 or less models, you're going to gain 1 special weapon from the special weapons list. Now, this can be a transonic arquebus, this can be the plasma caliber, or this can be an arc rifle. Now, I don't see the transonic arquebus, the big sniper rifle. I don't see that really synergizing with them. Obviously, these guys want to be moving up the table. Their weapons are assault weapons, so you're going to see them play a little bit more into the plasma as a solid choice. And I mean arc if you're planning on not maybe advancing them the entire game, or if you advance them the first turn, get them in position, then the next turn you start shooting your arc rifles. I mean at rapid fire range, because that kind of synergizes with the range of the weapons themselves. Now, once you've increased the unit size, for every 10 models, you can take 1 of each special weapon, which means in a 20-man squad, you can take 2 plasma calibers, 2 transonic arquebuses, and 2 arc rifles. You're not going to do that, but I mean, if you wanted to, you could. This is kind of just to go in line with the special weapons options that come standard in the box when you buy a set of 10 Skitarii Rangers or Vanguard. GW did this just as to make it a little easier for newer players coming in, and it did inevitably leave a lot of players from previous editions of Adeptus Mechanicus with an abundance of special weapons. So I highly recommend, if you're going into this and you're building new sets, magnetize the heads. You can swap them between Vanguard and Rangers for your special weapons, especially on the the arc rifles and the plasma. Or if your models aren't completely, if they're not dead set glued together, I managed to pluck the heads off of my plasma and arc rifles, and now I can interchange them using magnets. So very, very useful. Now, as stated, for every 10 models, you get 1 of each. You can take one of each, and that means in a 20-man squad, again, you're getting 2 of each. As far as the special equipment is concerned, they can take the Omnispecs or the Data Tether. The Data Tether is going to give them the +1 leadership. It's also going to give them the Data Tether keyword, which is really important when we're looking at the Warlord traits and certain special rules, especially looking at the Skitarii Marshal and the ability to target these guys with these abilities anywhere on the tabletop. It's fantastic. Now the Omnispecs is going to give them basically when they're shooting their ranged weapons, the target is not going to receive the benefits of light cover. It's also very, very helpful. Now, for every 10 models in the squad, you're going to be able to take one of these special weapons, one of the 2. So you can mix and match. You can either have 2 of one or 2 of the other, or 1 of each. I personally recommend 1 of each just to give them all of their bases covered. They still have their Radium Carbine. They can't switch that Radium Carbine out for one of the special weapons, so you can't have one model with, rocking a Data Tether and a Plasma. Just can't do that. Now, as far as the special rules for these guys, they come stock with Doctrina Imperatives, which is going to allow you to some crazy shenanigans. I mean, we're not going to get too far into those, but if you haven't already looked at those as a AdMech player, take a look at our Codex review. They also have the Bionic special rule, which is giving them an innate 6+ invulnerable save. They have the Rad Saturation Aura ability. Now, this is fantastic. Non-vehicle units that are within engagement range of these guys are suffering -1 of their strength and -1 of their toughness. -1 toughness is huge. Strength is good, but toughness is huge, especially when you start stacking these guys with some of the melee elements of your force, and maybe having these guys charge in, get an engagement range, charge in tandem with another unit, like maybe Dragoons or fisting Castellan robots or something, where you can just all of a sudden really put a wrench in your opponent's plans by making something -1 toughness. Again, remember, it is non-vehicle. They do have some keywords, but the ones that are mostly significant are going to be the core, the Skitarii, and the infantry keyword. This is what's going to make them sort of interact with other rules and character synergies and, aura abilities, things like that. So now we're going into Forge World choices. When we're talking about Forge Worlds for these guys, I'm not going to mention all of the Forge Worlds. There's obviously lots of different... There's tons of different possibilities with these guys, but the ones that stand out the most to me are obviously going to be the Mars. The Mars, they're going to gain access to the Canticles ability. This is going to be able to stack things like Shroud Psalm and their Bulkwork Imperative for their Doctrina Imperatives, giving them a ridiculous amount of durability. On the flip side of that, if you don't want to go that direction, you could go the Lucius direction, which is, a super popular pick right now. This is going to make damage 1 weapons. If they're targeted by a damage 1 weapon, they're gaining +1 to their armor save flat. This stacks really well with the Bulkwork Imperative, things like this, but it's also just makes them really, really, really durable on the tabletop. And they're also getting +3 inches to the range of their weapons, putting their Radium Carbines up to 21-inch weapons, which is pretty good when you factor in them advancing and then shooting their weapons. There's also lots of different ways to give them the ability to not suffer the penalty to their assault weapons for advancing and firing, which is, great on a unit like this. Highly mobile is the word I would use for them, and the ability to jump on an objective, take an objective across the table, and put down some serious suppressing fire while doing it. The Ryza Forge World, now +1 to wound in melee, pretty solid. +1 to charge, can get them into combat and help, like I said before, support some combat units. +1 to wound really helps when you think about them degrading the toughness of your opponent. So now you guys are striking at strength 3. Your opponent's maybe like a Marine, toughness 4. Now you're bringing him down to toughness 3, so you're wounding on 4s, but you're getting +1 to wound, so now you're wounding Marines on 3s. You can see where the stacking starts to come into play, and there's some shenanigans you can get up to with some stratagem support with these guys, and taking the right Forge World. So Ryza would be on that list for me. They also gain the Plasma Specialists Stratagem, which I have to mention, it's 2 command points, so it's probably going to be better used on something like Cataphren Destroyers with Plasma Culverins. But the Calivers at +1 damage for 2 CP. If you have 2 of them in the squad and they're firing, multiple shots, it's pretty good. It can be kind of a back pocket trick to do some damage mid game, late game. Now, one thing I do have to kind of mention though, before I go on any further, I should mention, backing up a little bit, Mars. This is any unit with a high volume of shots is a prime target for your Mars stratagem, which is the Wrath of Mars, allowing you to do some mortal wounds. I mean, it's capped now, but it's still very, very good. And custom Warlord, or custom Forge World, sorry. So for custom Forge Worlds, there's the Radiant Disciples, which is going to make basically anything targeting them more than 12 inches away is going to be at -1 strength. It's good. It's not going to be great because if you have to think that these guys are going to be getting up in your opponent's face, trying to take those midfield objectives. So you also want to benefit from that -1 strength and toughness aura if you have melee elements in your army. So it's good, but it's not great. The second part of that custom Forge World though is the Scarifying Weapons, and that's +1 strength and +1 AP for radium weapons, putting their radiums up to a strength 4 and AP 0, or AP 0 goes to AP 1. Pretty strong if you're running tons of these guys. If you were just running all of these guys on the tabletop, you might want to consider doing that. My personal opinion on the custom Forge Worlds is they're good if you lean super heavy into a build or of an army where you're spamming units like that. But at the same time, I think that you're going to get more bang for your buck if you're taking the main Forge Worlds instead. So something to consider. Now, as far as stratagems for these guys is concerned, there's the Machine Superiority Stratagem. This is 1 command point. Fight phase, you're getting +1 strength on a Skitarii unit. Now, as mentioned before, if you're stacking this with like Ryza and you're getting that +1 to wound, all of a sudden these guys are swinging against Marines and they're normally wounding on, they're normally wounding on 5s, but now they're -1 toughness, so now they're wounding on 4s. Then you're getting the +1, and now you're getting +1 strength, and now all of a sudden you're wounding Marines on 2s. This is really good when we talk about, at the very end of the video, we'll discuss the Charadon, not Charadon, sorry. I totally have Space Sharks in my mind right now. When we're talking about the Warzone Charadon, and the Book of Fire, when we're talking about the Skitarii Veteran Cohort. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video, but you can see where this is starting to get a little crazy as far as the melee potential of these guys, just being able to chug out a bunch of attacks and actually successfully wound stuff. Host of the Intermediary is a 1 CP stratagem. It gives the alpha in the unit the ability to take a Skitarii Warlord trait. These are fantastic. Can't say enough about these. And the ability to target other units with your alpha, depending on the situation, depending on when you need it. I mean, you can give them a range of really cool Warlord traits and auras that they can cast on units. This includes no penalty to their assault weapons. So again, that's a way of getting that. Fall back and shoot is an option. You can still shoot while performing an action. This is really great, especially for a unit that you want to be claiming a midfield objective. It's also going to tie into some secondaries that you might want to take for your army. Another stratagem, the Acquisition at Any Cost. This one's getting a lot of salt right now. It's 1 command point. It select 1 objective, and a unit within 6 inches of it can auto pass morale. Very strong on a big blob of troops to keep them just holding an objective and scare your opponent away. And you can take tons of incoming fire. I mean, and your guys are super durable while they're sitting on that objective. It's great. Info Slave Skull, 2 command points. Shoot an enemy unit within 12 inches arriving from reinforcements. So pick an enemy unit that's arriving onto the tabletop. If they're within 12 inches of your unit, I mean, remember, you only have 18-inch range weapons, typically. So now, all of a sudden, you can just shoot a volley of fire at them. This is really good, especially if you pop certain stratagems and really buff these guys up. Now, the enriched rounds. This is 1 command point. I can see this going up to 2 command points in the future. I'm confused that the Rangers War Gear Stratagems 2 command points, yet this one's 1, but it allows you to, your weapons are normally auto wounding on 6s to hit. Now they're auto wounding on 4s to hit for 1 command point. Oh, this is nasty when you're targeting big scary monsters. Your opponent will not be happy with this stratagem. I'll tell you that right now. Stack this with some other abilities and some rerolls. Maybe reroll the hit, reroll the wounds, and you can just see a huge volume of shots going through. Now, speaking of stacking, we're going into characters. Now, character synergies, we have the Dominus for reroll hit rolls of 1. Very strong. We have the Manipulus. He has the Galvanic Field ability, which is going to allow you to target a unit within 9 inches, a Forge World Core unit within 9 inches, which these guys are. And their Galvanic, Radium, and Arc weapons are going to gain plus 6 inches to the range, and they're gaining an AP point of AP. So, I mean, these guys going up to some serious distance now when you're stacking those abilities. I mean, and you're throwing in the fact that they could possibly advance and shoot without penalties. There's ways to make them auto advance. It's auto advance, 2d6, take the highest. All really, really good. Now we're looking at the Skitarii Marshal. Now, the Skitarii Marshal is obviously going to be your mainstay character. He's going to allow you to reroll wound rolls of 1. He also has the Control Edict special rule, which is he can select a unit within 9 inches, and they can ignore the negative to their Doctrine and Imperatives, which means if you wanted to give these guys +1 ballistic skill, but don't want them to suffer from -1 weapon skill because you intend on charging them that turn at the end of the shooting phase, here's your solution. And the reroll wound rolls of 1, I mean, that's really, really strong. We didn't have that before. Now we do with the new Skitarii Marshal. And the other thing I would mention is that he can take the Relic, which is the Exemplar's Eternity. Now, Exemplar's Eternity allows you to reroll hit rolls and reroll wound rolls of 1 on modified wound rolls of 1 for the unit. Yes, that's like having a Dominus paired off with the Marshal on the tabletop. So it allows you to spread those auras around and those support auras around the tabletop even more. Now, when we're looking at the potential of selecting a Holy Order for one of your characters, I mean, there's basically one good thing for this unit in every single bracket, but the ones that stand out to me, the Logi, and basically allowing them to have AP -1 and AP -2 weapons targeting them count as 0. Just doesn't end the amount of defensive buffs that these guys can get. The Artisans, they can gain the fallback to shoot in the initial, and then in the advance, they're getting +1 strength in the shooting. This is also very, very strong. Yeah, especially when you stack it on something like a Manipulus, and he's giving that unit the +1 to their AP already in the extended range. It's lots of good stuff there. The other one that's really stands out to me is the Magi. That's giving them in the initial part, giving them +2 to their advances, so getting them up the field quicker. And then the Exploding Sixes in the shooting phase for the advanced part of that is going to be really good too. I mean, especially any unit that has a high volume of shots, you're just maximizing the number of shots if you have more sixes going forward and doing more damage. Yeah, and it works really well with their special rule where the 6 auto wound. So now you're still getting to roll that 6 to hit, sort of, because it's exploded into another shot. But you're, auto wounding with the initial one. It's really cool. As mentioned before, the Charadon, Warzone Charadon Book of Fire. This is unlocked the Skitarii Veteran Cohort for us. Now, what this is going to do for Vanguard specifically, you're getting +1 to your leaders. It costs a certain amount of points, which might fluctuate, might change, but it costs points to upgrade the unit. You have to upgrade all of your units, and it limits you to only taking Skitarii units in your detachment. So you are allowed to take, I think, 1 Engine Seer, 1 Manipulus, 1 Dominus within your force, which is, I mean, gives you some flexibility, but you must upgrade all of your units, your Vanguard and Ranger units, to these veterans, and it gives them +1 leadership. It gives them a 5++ invulnerable, which is just great. The +1 leadership is amazing too on blobs. The 5++ is just icing on the cake. Then you have an extra D6 for your advance and discard the lowest, as we discussed earlier, how great that can be. So you're getting those like high, you know, you're going to look at 4 or 5 inches for your advances, pretty much guaranteed. And then they also never counts as being above 5 models for the purposes of the blast rule. This is huge on big blobs of infantry. So I can really see these guys, people leaning really heavy into the Skitarii element of this army already going into the 9th edition codex. But now that you've added this on, I mean, you can make some really, really beefy, durable, high leadership. And I mean, they're gaining that +1 attack as well. So, I mean, yeah, just all kinds of good. All kinds of good. So take a look at how these guys kind of interchange. Tell me in the comment section below how you guys are finding these guys performing on the tabletop for you. I know in my experience so far, they have been insane on the tabletop, and I can see why people are spamming these units on in their competitive lists, because I mean, there's no reason not to. They're super durable, so they're managing to, I would say, almost overperform what they should be intended to do. And that's a controversial thing to say as a diehard AdMech player. I mean, I love to see them performing well, but I can see some changes in the near future. I can see some points changes. I can see some maybe some tweaks to how their all of their stacking rules are interacting with them. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Do you think that these guys are overpowered right now? Do you think they're too good? What dogma are you using? What Forge World are you running? And how are you getting the most of these guys on the tabletop? Thanks so much for watching, guys, and until next time, praise the Omnissiah.
Sponsored by
Belisarius Call would want you to smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy. Hey guys, and welcome back to Anvil of War Gaming. Today on Let's Talk Tactics, we're discussing the Skitarii Vanguard for your use of your game.